Let us generate a bodhicitta motivation for this morning's session. I think the purpose of my life is to lead all sentient beings from suffering to enlightenment. In order to do that, first I have to reach enlightenment myself. That depends upon my following and completing the path to enlightenment, and for that I need a teacher, I need a guide, I need a guru, I need someone who knows the path to enlightenment, to lead me along it to enlightenment. Therefore, I'm going to take part in this class on how to relate to a spiritual teacher. Sangye Chedam Zogi Chonam Chanchu Badu Dani Kyabzuchi Dagi Chajingi Pesonam Ki Rola Benje Sangye Dubasho Sangye Chedam Zogi Chonam Chanchu Badu Dani Kyabzuchi Dagi Chajingi Pesonam Rola Benje Sangye Dubasho Sangye Chedam Yogi Chonam Chanju Badu Dani Gyasuji Dagi Chajinge Besonam Ki Rola Penje Sangye Dupa Yo. Okay, so here we are again. Last time we were talking about pause, not pause, but pause, P-O-R-E-S. So if you have this this book, Heart of the Path, is about page 90 we're looking at. So these are the benefits of correct devotion to the Guru. And one of the things we talked about last time was the way that the Bodhisattva always crying, Sada Prarudita, practiced with his guru Dhammadgata, and we sent a couple of links, didn't we, from the last couple of chapters of the Perfection of Wisdom in 8,000 lines. So it tells that whole story of how the Bodhisattva always crying. He was called always crying because he kept in mind constantly the suffering of sentient beings, and it was so upsetting that every time he thought about that, he would cry. He had so much compassion. So just to reiterate these the 8 benefits of correct devotion to the Guru. We become closer to enlightenment. We please all the Buddhas. We're not harmed by Maras or evil friends. Our delusions and negative actions naturally cease. All our realizations of the path and bhumis and levels increase. We will never lack virtuous friends in all our future lives. We will not fall into the lower realms, and we will effortlessly accomplish all our temporal and ultimate wishes. So we talked quite a bit about becoming closer to enlightenment by practicing the advice of our Guru. And so in Rinpoche's book, The Heart of the Path, there are pages and pages of teachings on each of these 8 points. So, it's something to read slowly and think about. So, in these, 6 sessions, it's very difficult to get into this topic in depth. It's such a deep topic. So that's why we have this book now. And as Rinpoche always says, when we reading a Dharma book, we shouldn't read it like a newspaper. We should read it slowly, read and think. Read a couple of sentences and think about them, read a couple more, think about those, and really try to understand the subject. And get a clear intellectual understanding of it, and then meditate on it even more deeply. And do an analytical meditation. Trying to come to a conclusion, is this teaching correct or not? So the first time, I think it's probably good to read the whole book, just from beginning to end, fairly quickly, just to get an idea of the scope of the subject, and then go back to the beginning and read it slowly and meditate on all these points, to try and deepen our understanding and even get an understanding, like an insight into the topic of Guru devotion. So what I'm doing here is just reading selected bits and talking about them, but to understand the subject properly, it's it can take quite a while. And often, as I said before, we didn't get teaching on this subject for the first few years, really, back in the early 70s. And I think because people were so skeptical, they'd think that, as I read from a couple of weeks ago, Gomchen Rinpoche advice on Guru practice. Remember that one? And, he said that his own Guru had told him, I'm not going to give you teachings on this subject, because if I do, you'll just think I'm praising myself and, putting myself up. So you need to study this teaching yourself from the texts. And even though Rinpoche now gives lots and lots of teachings on Guru devotion, I think he feels that the students are much more mature and have much better understanding of what Guru devotion is, and many of the students have several gurus, so they have experience with different teachers, not just him. So I think he's obviously he's given a lot of teachings, because there's this whole book. So I don't know about other teachers. Yeah, I can't. I've been to a lot of teachings with different teachers over the years. I can't really remember any other teachers teaching much in depth on this topic. And I think it's to well, I don't know what their reason is, but it's possibly just because we're all so cynical and skeptical that if they start talking about what the enormous benefits of making offerings to the guru, our negative mind is going to think, oh, they're just trying to collect stuff from us, But it's not like that, because what the teachings on guru devotions that our teachers give us are how they practice themselves. So, and the benefit, when we look at His Holiness and we look at Lama Yeshe or Lama Zopa Rinpoche or any of our other teachers, think how wonderful they are and how amazing it would be to be like them. They are like that because of their practice of guru devotion, because the way they practice with their gurus and the way they are able to open and develop their own minds and become the great teachers that they are. So, they were not only once like us, they were worse than us. So if they can become like that, so can we. And they're like that, and we're like this because they practiced guru devotion, followed the path, and attained all these realizations. And so far, we haven't. So the first outline we talked about was how we become closer to enlightenment, and the second one was we please all the Buddhas, and that's what. No, actually, we didn't get to that. We were talking about the first one had these two sections. We become closer to enlightenment by practicing the advice given by our guru, and we become closer to enlightenment by making offerings and serving our guru. So that's what we were talking about, and with that example with Bodhisattva always crying and so forth. And then we quoted from the Guru Puja that says, even one of your hair paws is for us a field of merit more highly praised than all the conquerors of the 3 times and 10 directions. Compassionate refuge, Saviour, I make requests to you. So the compassionate refuge, Saviour, is the Guru, but what are the paws of the Guru? So we talked about that. The Tibetan word is the same as for the paws of the skin, like the hair paws. And it actually refers to any being who's related to or belongs to your guru. So even offering to the entourage of the guru, or even our guru's pets, creates vast amounts of merit just because of their connection with the guru. Because of making, so Rinpoche says, because of making offerings to even the paws of the guru, before making offerings to even the paws of the guru has this incredible advantage. In the past, when Geshe Terlungpa, so this was the Geshe who, from Terlung, which is where Lama Yeshe comes from, just a bit west of Lhasa. When Geshe Terlungpa drank butter tea, he would collect the residue of the butter left in his bowl and send it along with his leftover food to the dogs that lived in Lo. Why did he do this? Because his root guru, Geshe Chengawa, lived in Lo, and the dogs belonged to him. So Geshe Terlungpa said, I accumulate much more merit by giving food to the dogs in Lo than by inviting all the monks of Tolung and offering food to them. Because his guru lived in Lo, so Elo, that's the name of the village, the dogs in that village were his guru's paws, so there was much more benefit in offering food to them than to the monks in Tolung, who were not disciples of Geshe Chengawa. So how quickly we become enlightened depends on how quickly we're able to finish accumulating the merit of fortune, or the merit of method, and the merit of wisdom. So I'm sure you know about the two wings of the bird. I'm sure Rabina talks about it all the time. The wisdom and method. As a bird needs two wings to fly, so we need to develop method and wisdom to reach enlightenment. So by completing the collection of merit, which is mainly through practicing bodhicitta, and then later on, if we're practicing Vajrayana, doing the more advanced meditation practices of Tantra. When we complete the collection of merit, we attain the form body of the Buddha, Rupakaya, the holy body of form. So that makes sense, bodhicitta, when we practice bodhicitta, the six perfections, this is a kind of active practices that we engage in: giving, morality, patience, effort, concentration, wisdom. And we benefit others through these practices, and we do it mainly through our body, and so by completing that collection, we achieve the holy body of the Buddha. So there are two holy bodies of the Buddha, two kinds of Rupakaya. There's the Sambhogakaya, or the enjoyment body, so-called. So that can only be seen by advanced bodhisattvas, higher bodhisattvas on the 8th, 9th, and 10th levels. And the Sambhogakaya lives in the Pure Land and is only surrounded by bodhisattvas, gives Mahayana teachings, and the Sambhogakaya also manifests the 32 major marks and 80 minor marks of an enlightened being. So if you want to know what they are, I think if you look in the glossary at lamayeshe.com, major and minor marks of a Buddha, you'll find, I don't know if they're enumerated there or there are links to the site where all these qualities are enumerated. So the enjoyment body of the Buddha has the same physical markings and attributes that an enlightened being has, and gives teachings only to gives Mahayana teachings only to bodhisattvas, and it remains until the end of samsara. So that doesn't do us much good. We can't see that body, just like we can't see the enlightened body, unless it manifests in a form that our karma allows us to see. So that's the Nirmanakaya, or like the body of Shakyamuni Buddha. So that's the body that we can see, and gives teachings to human beings. So the body, that's the result of accumulation of merit. And when we complete the collection of merit of wisdom, we attain the Dharmakaya, the truth, so-called truth body, or the wisdom body of the Buddha. And that's also has two. There's the Yeshe Choku, the Jnana Dharmakaya, the wisdom Dharmakaya, which is the omniscient mind of the Buddha, the enlightened mind. And, we can't see that. So that's why the Buddha, out of compassion, has to manifest in a form body that, because only enlightened beings can see the Dharmakaya. And the ultimate, I'm not sure why this is actually, but the ultimate nature of the omniscient mind is called the Svabhavakaya. So that's the absolute nature of the Dharmakaya. And that's listed as the second kind of Dharmakaya, or wisdom truth body. Anyway. So how quickly we become enlightened depends on how quickly we're able to finish accumulating the merit of fortune and the merit of wisdom. Whether we're concerned about our own happiness or the happiness of all sentient beings, we should take every opportunity to create merit, even a small amount. And it's easy to accumulate infinite merit just with the beings around us in our everyday life. We don't have to go anywhere special. We have incredible opportunities all around us. There's no doubt about this. If you live in a meditation center where there is often a virtuous friend, your teacher, and also the pause of the virtuous friend. So if we live in a Dharma center with our teacher, then, and all the other students are also their pause of the Guru, their objects of offering. So it's very easy to create merit by serving the Guru, by serving the center, by serving the other students, and so forth. But even if you live in your own home, through making offerings to the pause of the Guru, you still have many opportunities to accumulate inconceivable merit, more extensive merit than from making offerings to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and all the objects of the 10 directions, as Vajradhara explained in some of the root tantric texts. By generating faith in these points and putting them into practice, we become wise in practicing Dharma and accumulating merit. So, in the old days, when Lama Yeshe was still with us, and he and Rinpoche would travel to all the centers, in the States and in Europe and Australia, just all over the place. And, a lot of students would come and do the teachings and retreats. And then the Lamas would leave, and the students would kind of feel a little I don't know, bereft or it was a bit of a downer when the Lamas left. There was so much energy and so much laughter when they were there. It was just such a great feeling. But the wise students knew that even after the Lamas have gone, there's still all these other fellow students around that they could work with and help, and even serve tea and offering to, and because they were pause of the Guru, so they were really powerful objects of offering. So even if the teacher isn't with us, we still have plenty of opportunity by working for our Guru's center and by helping our fellow students and like that. So then, Rinpoche goes on to explain that in the large Tibetan monasteries, where there were one or more teachers that were shared by all the monks, then just by serving all those other monks in the monastery, the monks who were serving them create incredible merit, because they're all pause of the same Guru. It's a funny word, I don't know how they came up with it. Yeah, I think it needs a bit more meditation to come up with a good explanation. I suppose you could say that, you know, the guru's skin, the guru, and the pores of the guru's skins are an integral part of the guru's holy body. And so if we regard also the attendants and the surroundings of the entourage as much part of the guru as the pores of the guru's skin, then, you know, that sort of indicates that making offerings to them is very close to making offerings to the actual body of the physical presence of the guru himself. I don't know. Rinpoche then also tells the story of Chombi. So Chombi was the cook at Kopan in the 70s for a long time, mainly for the young monks. I think he came in 73 or 74 to Kopan, and he'd been a student. He was a monk from Serra. He'd been Lama, and he was Lama's student in the refugee camp in Buxa, and he was the one that insisted that Rinpoche come to Lama Yeshe's teachings and dragged Rinpoche along, and sort of introduced him to Lama Yeshe, or you know, Geshe Rapton, who was a teacher of Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche at Buxa. He had quite a few students. He was a very respected teacher, Geshe Rapton. And, you know, I was telling the story about how Rinpoche was going to rewrite the wish-fulfilling Golden Sun. Was I telling you that story last time? And so in the end, he decided to do it from this book, The Essential Nectar. He based it on this. So this is the original edition that we published in London at Wisdom in the mid-80s. So as far as I know, it's got a different cover. It's been redesigned. But as far as I know, it's still in print from Wisdom Publications, The Essential Nectar. So this was teachings on the text by Geshe Rapton. So this is how we used to do our books at first in London. This was the Venerable Rubina's design. You know, in fact, she did all this lettering herself with Letraset. Anyone remember Letraset? So Rubina used to design and then hand set all these book covers herself. And then we had these kind of cool flaps on the cover. So this was very expensive to print in the West. So we did our printing in Singapore. We had the colored end papers. So this back flap. So I later on met someone in Australia who'd worked for one of the big publishers in London. And even they, I think she worked for Allen and Unwin, one of the big publishers. And she said even they knew about they were jealous of the way that we would spend all this money on making beautiful books. Whereas people that worked for big publishers, they just had to churn them out and keep them as cheap as possible, you know. Anyway, so Geshe Rapton. So yeah, he was teacher of Lama Yeshe, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, many other monks, including this guy Chombi, Chöpel. And Geshe Rapton had 3 Rinpoches under his care. So I think he felt 3 was too much to handle. So he gave one of them, I think I can't pronounce his name, Domtob Rinpoche, gave him to Geshe Tenzin Gompo, I think his name was. They finished up going to Milan at the Gepeling Center in Milano. And then there was another tulku, Gonsa Rinpoche, so he stayed with Geshe Rabten, and Geshe Rabten sent Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who was the third tulku that he was looking after, to Lama. He sent him to Lama Yeshe. But I think it was Chombi that actually physically took Rinpoche up and sort of pushed him into the room. And Rinpoche was reluctant to go, and he didn't have an offering. Anyway, he tells his story. So he says many years ago that at Kopan, the cook, Chombi, the one I mentioned, first brought me to take teachings from Lama Yeshe, used to get discouraged. He'd come to my room and say, "I'm always so busy cooking that I never have time to practice Dharma. I'm always creating negative karma while you're always sitting on your bed saying prayers and meditating." This is Chombi complaining to Lama Zopa Rinpoche. I wasn't sure whether he was joking or serious, but he then said, "After this, you will go to a pure realm." So he was making his own projections. I told him, "I just sit here doing nothing. You're the one who actually practices Dharma. Look at how much merit you accumulate every day." Since he'd received many initiations and teachings, I told him, "Remember what it says in Guru Puja. Making offerings to one paw of the Guru brings much more merit than making offerings to the Buddhas of the 3 times. Each time you offer tea in the morning, you accumulate unbelievable merit, as there are so many disciples of Lama Yeshe in this monastery. So at breakfast time, you accumulate so much merit, then again at lunchtime, at tea time, in the evening, and then at dinner time. Even in one day, you're accumulating unbelievable merit. You should understand this and be happy. You've heard more teachings than I have, so you should think in this way. Actually, you practice Dharma much more than I do. I just sit on my bed doing nothing." So that's true. So you remember the story with Atisha. Atisha had 3 main disciples when he first came to Tibet. One was his close disciple, Dom Tomba, his interpreter, who was his main attendant and was just with him day and night, and then who later on founded Reting Monastery and the Kadampa tradition. So there was Dom Tomba, and then there was a cook, and then there was another disciple who was nearby in a cave doing long retreat, meditating. So one day Atisha was sitting on his bed, and he thought, "I wonder of these 3 disciples, who has the most merit?" So then he meditated, and he checked his internal merit meter, and then he saw, well, clearly Dom Tomba has the most merit. He's the one that's closest to Atisha and his interpreter. Then he looked at the cook and the guy who was spending most of his time in meditation, and kind of to his surprise, he found that the cook actually had much more merit than the meditator, who was spending all his time in meditation. So, and that's because the cook was not only serving Atisha, he was also serving his other disciples. And so that's just the power of the merit. That's the power of the object, the Guru, and his surroundings, and the merit that we can create with all those, holy objects. So, so Chombi was a paw of Lama Yeshe. He was one of Lama Yeshe's surroundings. And he lived at Kopan with his wife, and they had 3 little kids. And I was living there at the monastery with the other Western monks and nuns. And I don't know, somehow there was a while there where I think I annoyed Chombi or he annoyed me. But I remember I really upset Lama Yeshe once when this is terrible. I was really annoyed with Chombi one day. I can't remember why. And I said, look at you. There's one man working and 5 men eating. That was how I put it. So he was the only one working, but the monastery, we had to feed all his family as well. So it was a horrible thing to say. So then he ran to Lama and complained that he wanted to leave because I'd insulted him in this way. So then Lama really got upset with me, really told me off. And, rightly so. I can't remember what it was. A terrible thing to say. One man working, 5 men eating. 5 men eating is 3 little babies. I guess I thought they should all be working for their keep. So just as you can create merit with the pause of the guru, so you can create a lot of heavy negative karma as well. So that could be why I'm not enlightened yet, because I yelled at Chombi. One of the reasons. The Sakya Pandita, so the Sakya Pandita is one of the main Sakya Lamas of the 4 main Tibetan traditions. He was an embodiment of Manjushri and one of the 5 principal Lamas of the Sakya tradition, the 5 famous founders. He said, all the merit you accumulate by practicing the paramita of charity, perfection of charity for 1,000 eons, giving to other sentient beings, not only your head and limbs, but even the merit you receive by offering your body in this way, all that merit is accumulated in an instant with the path of the guru. Therefore, offer service and feel happy. So, as I said, we didn't really receive any of these teachings at the beginning. In the first few years, but even after my first course, I really wanted to. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to find out more about this Tibetan Buddhism thing, and no, I think more than that. I think I already kind of wanted to put my life into it. You remember? I think I told you. I said to Anila Ann, the Canadian nun who was Rinpoche's assistant after the course, that, I want to do Dharma, but I don't know how I support myself. I don't have that much money. And, at that point, I wasn't thinking about becoming a monk or anything, but, I just felt I'd really want to put my life fully into the Dharma. And then she said to me, oh, if you give yourself to the Dharma will always look after you. Remember that story? So, so I was like, oh, okay. So, I've tried to give myself to the Dharma. I'm not sure how much I have, but, here I am 50 years later, I haven't done an honest day's work, and I'm still alive, and the Dharma's still looking after me, I think. What can I say? So I had this kind of natural automatic wish that I wanted to help the Lamas. I wanted to, be a tiny little fingernail on one of the 1,000 arms of Chenrezig, something like, I felt that even in 1 month, I'd benefited so much from the course, and I felt others could benefit. And I wanted to sort of help the Lamas in their mission, however I could. So that was, I think, definitely, even though he had teachings on the importance of serving and helping our teachers, there must have been previous lives imprints, I think. So all that merit, by giving our body and everything to other sentient beings, we accumulate in an instant. That's a huge amount of merit, but we accumulate that by with the path of the Guru. So Rinpoche says, that was the quote, "The path of the Guru refers to practicing Guru Yoga by making offerings to our Guru, whether to the actual or even visualized Guru." So Sakya Pandita is saying that the merit we'd accumulate by practicing the 6 perfections, such as the perfection of charity, for thousands of eons, practicing charity for thousands of eons, we accumulate in an instant by making offerings to the Guru. That means that even by offering 1 bucket of water for the Guru to bathe, we're able to collect all the merit collected over thousands of eons by giving not only our own body, our most cherished object, to other sentient beings, but even the merit we've accumulated through these actions. So that's why, we always dedicate the merit. And by doing so, we create even more merit. But we create the same amount of merit just by making offerings to our Guru. So the merit we accumulate in an instant by making offerings to our Guru is unimaginable. Anyway, so Rinpoche goes on and explains that in more detail. Padampa Sangye also said, so there's this great Indian yogi, Padampa Sangye, "If you take care of the Guru, who is much more precious than the Buddhas, you will achieve whatever realizations you wish to achieve in this life," people of Tingri. So there's a famous teaching Padampa Sangye gave in southern Tibet, in a little village called Tingri. And I remember we had, you know what a cyclostyle is? Cyclostyle, sheets of paper. Mimeograph, do you know? Not sure what the process of creating the original on a mimeograph was, but when you printed it, it would come out, it was purple, I think. Printed like, so the duplicating machines we had back in Nepal, we used wax stencils. I talked about this when I was talking about how we first started publishing Kopan. So you have these wax stencils, these long paper coated in wax, and you take the ribbon out of the typewriter, and then you type on and then you put the stencil, the wax paper, into the typewriter, and when you type, the keys cut the wax. So then you take it off, and it's got it's attached to a kind of thin piece of cardboard at the top with a lot of holes in it, that then you attach to the drum of a duplicating machine, and you either have to crank it by hand, or you could get an electric one. And the brand that we used to use was called Gestetner. It was a German one. And we bought an electric one in Kathmandu, and we set up our own little printing press at Kopan. So there was 3 sheets of paper with these advice. It was someone had typed it out, and this was, we didn't print it ourselves. Someone gave me this at Kopan in the very early days, and it was these pieces of advice that Padampa Sangye had given the people of Tingri, such as this one: if you take care of the Guru, who is much more precious than the Buddhas, you will achieve whatever realizations you wish to achieve in this life. People of Tingri, more precious than the Buddhas. So this advice of Padampa Sangye has been published here by Shambhala with commentary by Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. So Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, Padampa Sangye, the 100 verses of advice. So this is a great little book. Okay, so that's so Rinpoche says, if we see a statue of a Buddha as more precious than the holy body of our Guru, which we regard as an ordinary being suffering samsaric body, we'll find it very difficult to generate realizations of Lamrim, and extremely difficult to generate realizations of Tantra. But if we take care of our Guru as being much more precious than the Buddhas, as Padampa Sangye says, we will generate the realizations of Sutra and Tantra easily, like rain falling. Can you hear another voice?
Just a little tiny bit. It's okay.
Hang on. My wife has a loud voice. So from the Kala Chakra says, Kala Chakra Tantra, one cannot become enlightened in this life, even if one makes offerings to the triple gem and saves the lives of millions of creatures for all the eons of the 3 times. But if with devotion one pleases the Guru, who has oceans of qualities, one will definitely achieve the general and sublime realizations in this life. So this goes on for quite, Rinpoche gives many, many explanations about this. So this is just the first point about the advantages, the benefits of correct devotion to the Guru, that we become closer to enlightenment. So I better move on, but there's a lot more there in this book. So the second benefit is that we please all the Buddhas. The second advantage of correctly devoting ourselves to the virtuous friend is that we please all the Buddhas. The Essential Nectar mentions, when a disciple correctly follows the holy virtuous friend, the thought that this practitioner will quickly be liberated from samsara profoundly pleases the holy minds of all the victorious ones, like a mother who sees that her son has been benefited. So there's also a reference to this in the sutra called the Laying Out of Stalks, which states, the holy minds of the Buddha are happy with the bodhisattvas who have entered the teachings revealed by the Guru. So Pabonka Rinpoche says that the virtuous friend is the form in which all the Buddhas manifest in order to subdue us. If we don't devote ourselves correctly to the virtuous friend, even if we make thousands of offerings to all the Buddhas of the 10 directions every day, there is no way that the Buddhas will be pleased with us. Similarly, if we disturb the holy mind of the virtuous friend by not following his advice, but at the same time make thousands of offerings to the Buddhas, there is again no way we will please all the Buddhas and no way we will attain realizations or even have any good experiences. However, if we correctly follow the Guru and then make offerings, we please all the Buddhas. Why? Because the Guru is the embodiment of all the Buddhas. In order to subdue our mind, all the Buddhas manifested in this particular aspect in accordance with our karma, or in other words, our merit. If we correctly follow our virtuous friend, even without needing to be invoked, all the Buddhas living in the directions will happily abide in our Guru's holy body and accept offerings. So by correctly following our Guru, we please all the Buddhas. The third benefit is we're not harmed by maras or evil friends. If we correctly devote ourselves to our virtuous friend with thought and with action, allowing ourselves to be under the control of the virtuous friend, we won't be harmed by maras or evil friends. Because of our strong devotion, we purify inconceivable obscurations and past negative karmas and accumulate extensive merit. Non-human beings, such as the devas and spirits who disturb the practice of virtue, and even human beings cannot then harm us. Even the four elements, earth, water, fire, and air, cannot give us harm. Generally speaking, someone with a lot of merit has much power and cannot be harmed by others, even though others might dislike the person and want to harm him. Such a practitioner has much success in his practice in achieving realizations. But when a person's level of merit becomes low because he commits a heavy negative karma or stops creating extensive merit, he experiences a lot of problems in his life. Human and non-human beings are then able to give harm. So Rinpoche says, there are two types of maras, inner and outer. Inner maras are karma and delusions. So I don't know why they personify quite these maras. In terms of internal ones, why they call delusion and karma and inner mara, I'm not sure. Mara generally means, interfering force or interfering energy. I don't know. Has someone have a look in the glossary of at lamayeshe.com? Talks about maras there. Outer maras are worldly beings who cause delusions to increase, such as nagas, devas, and various types of spirits. But they can also be human beings, evil friends. Someone who practices correct devotion to the virtuous friend can't be harmed by evil friends simply because he follows his virtuous friend and not the evil friends. Because of that, then evil friends can't be a bad influence and lead him on the wrong path. So again, Rinpoche goes on to give more explanations on all that. Someone found it?
Yes, it's posted in the chat.
Yeah, so in the notes there.
I have it, but I don't know how to share it.
Well, it's here in the chat. The four external and internal hindrances or obstacles to our spirit. This is from the glossary, right? Mary? Okay. The four external and internal hindrances or obstacles to our spiritual progress. They are the Mara of the contaminated aggregates, the Mara of the delusions, the Mara of the Lord of Death, and the Mara of the Deva's son, Devaputra Mara, the demon of desire and temptation. So when you remember the story of the Buddha, when he was sitting under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, very close to attaining enlightenment. And then he was all these different hindrances to try and stop him from getting enlightened came. You know, there were the so-called daughters of Mara, you know, all the sexy girls coming to try and distract him. And how's my sexy girl impression? Good. I'm easily pleased. And then there were the warlike Maras, you know, all these armies of sort of demon kind of looking spirits shooting arrows at him, but through the power of love, before the arrows reached him, they turned into flowers. And this sort of hail of arrows became a rain of flowers. So, you know, maybe we're settling down to do a meditation session. We think, oh, I'm going to do an hour's meditation now. And then a friend comes and says, hey, let's go to a movie. I think, oh, okay, go to the movie. I can meditate another time, you know. So, you know, that's a Mara, maybe. But we don't need external Maras either, you know. Just when we sit down and meditate, we have so many internal Maras, so many distractions internally. So anyway, the fourth benefit is that of correct devotion to the Guru, all our delusions and negative actions naturally cease. If we correctly devote ourselves to a virtuous friend, all our delusions and vices naturally stop. We realize the advantages of devoting ourselves to a virtuous friend, and also look at unsubdued minds and wrong conduct as our enemy. As we understand what is to be practiced and what is to be abandoned, we're able to give up wrong conduct, either because we follow our teacher's example or because we practice correct devotion from our own side. All our disturbing thoughts and negative actions are naturally stopped. When we are following a guru, we allow ourselves to be under his control instead of that of our delusions. Those who correctly devote themselves to the guru cannot be led in the wrong way, because, as said in the sutra laying out of stalks, it is difficult for one who is guided by a virtuous friend to be overwhelmed by karma and the unsubdued mind. The essence of nectar, or essential nectar, also sometimes it's called the essential nectar, sometimes called the essence of nectar. If one always devotes to the virtuous friend, all delusions and wrong conduct spontaneously cease. So if a guru is living an ascetic life with no interest in worldly activities, the disciples who take teachings from and live with that guru will automatically follow his example and also live an ascetic life. The disciples will also be content, have little desire, and turn their back on the 8 worldly dharmas. Because of the teacher, the disciples will naturally become pure dharma practitioners, leaving behind all concerns for happiness, comfort, food, clothing, and reputation. When the thought of worldly concern is left behind, the disciples will tend not to generate delusions and create negative karma. So, you know, that's the great benefit of living together with the Guru. And in the early days in Kopan, especially before the Lama started traveling, they were around all the time. So for those first couple of years, it was, you know, pretty amazing. But there's, as I think I said last time before, there's also this danger of spending too much time with the Guru or being too close to the Guru, because then we start to see the Guru as an ordinary person and take him for granted, and kind of think of him as like as a buddy, instead of as you know, manifestation of the Buddhas of the past, present, and future appearing in this form to lead me to enlightenment. What's the expression? Familiarity breeds contempt. So, you know, it's not quite like that, but something like that. So we have to be careful. If we are spending time living close to our Guru, not to lose sight of who he really is. If a teacher is strict in the practice of virtue rather than eating, sleeping, and enjoying himself all the time, he will always attempt day and night not to waste time. He will stay up late at night attempting to practice virtue. And so his disciples will also continuously attempt to practice virtue and not spend much time on the pleasures of this life. So that, you know, those, before the Lamas got really busy traveling and you know, starting all these centers and this whole organization, you know, as Chombi said to Rinpoche, you spend all day sitting on your bed, meditating and doing that while I'm just slaving in the kitchen, not practicing Dharma. Well, he had the wrong interpretation, as Rinpoche explained to him. But as Rinpoche said, sitting on the bed doing nothing, that's also wrong. He wasn't doing nothing. He was doing hours and hours and hours of meditation every day. And, you know, Rinpoche had all these formal practices, that commitments that he has to do. So he would spend his day doing them. And it was an incredible example for us, that how he didn't sleep, how not only did he spend all day doing his practices, but he spent all night doing these different practices as well. I mean, if you were up at 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning, and if you, not that we did, but if we went up to Rinpoche's room and looked in the door, he'd be sitting on his bed meditating, or doing some prayers, or reciting his sadhanas or something. So it was just an incredible example. And not sure if I mentioned it last time or not, but did I say when I asked him how come he doesn't sleep? Did I tell you that? Anyway, it's a very short story.
I don't remember that.
I can tell you again. I was walking along with him, and you know, and it was like that. He was up. He didn't sleep. You know, he didn't. Like I said, I never saw him lie down except for 2 days, about 1973 or 74, when he was really sick. He had a really high fever, into the hundreds, and he had to lie down then. But then, otherwise, he was sitting up the whole time. And I asked him how, you know. And I didn't really expect to get a straight answer, because if you ever asked Rinpoche about anything that hinted that he had some kind of spiritual attainment or anything, he would laugh it off and either not answer or just say, no, I don't, that's not true, or something, whatever. So anyway, I sort of bit the bullet and asked him, I said, well, you know, how come that you can do with virtually no sleep? And instead of brushing it off or saying, no, I sleep all the time, or something self-deprecatory, he said, well, if you understand how precious the perfect human rebirth is and how much you can accomplish with it in the short time that you have it, then you don't find time for sleep. You don't dare waste time by sleeping. So he didn't say he'd realized the perfect human rebirth or something, but come on. That's the first, it's basically the first Lamrim meditation. So I'm pretty sure Rinpoche has realized that one. Talking of perfect human rebirth, the fifth course, remember this very clearly, the fifth course, there are about 200 people there. And Rinpoche was giving teachings on perfect human rebirth, and then he stopped and he kind of looked around the room. There was this tent. The fifth course was the first one we had in a tent. We had to hire a tent and put it up in the backyard of Kopan Monastery because the Gompa was too small. There were 200 people there, and he looks around the room, and he says, if one person in this tent realizes the perfect human rebirth before they die, that will be such an amazing thing. So that was like really, perfect human rebirth is not a hard meditation to understand intellectually, and to even get a bit of a feeling for. But, a realization is, it's what it says. You realize. You don't just know how meaningful perfect human rebirth is. You don't merely know intellectually how hard it is to find because the cause is so difficult to create. So you have this deep understanding that there's wisdom of meditation that is, just a part of you, a part of your mind, such that, just if you have the thought, I've received a perfect human rebirth, this kind of, I'm doing this, I don't have any realization myself. I'm imagining, if I did, how it would feel, but this blissful joy wells up from within you that, the example I always say in the teachings is like a beggar finding a precious jewel in a garbage heap, understanding that this is the ticket out of poverty to a happy and comfortable life. And if we realize perfect human rebirth, if we realize that we've wasted even a minute through not practicing Dharma, through gossiping or wasting time or dozing off in meditation, if we just realize, we understand, we feel that we've wasted a minute or 2 minutes, we feel such incredible, heavy sense of loss that, I wasted 2 minutes that I'll never get back again by, spacing out or not generating bodhicitta. I mean, there's this, so so that's a realization of perfect human rebirth. And, if one of those 200 people has realized it, I don't know. No one's kind of put it on Facebook or anything. Oh, I realized perfect human rebirth yesterday. Well, they wouldn't, because that can't be wasting time, I think, putting on Facebook. So, but anyway, that's what Rinpoche said. The fifth benefit of correct devotion to the Guru is that all our realizations of the path and bhumis, or the levels, increase. Paths and levels. Is Gendon teaching those at the moment?
Yes, he is. He's teaching the Mahayana Paths and Grounds on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Okay, so benefits of correct devotion to a guru, but all our realizations of the paths and bhumis, or levels, increase. Even in each second. If we follow the virtuous friend correctly, even if we don't meditate much, realizations will spontaneously, effortlessly be generated. The quickest way to achieve realizations is to do what most pleases the holy mind of the virtuous friend, which means following his advice. We normally have such questions as, how can I have realizations quickly? Or how can I develop my mind quickly in the path to enlightenment? But somehow we don't think of this section of the Lam Rim, which is the answer, the Guru devotion section. Our answer is normally not this basic one, but that we need to do more retreat or some other practice. We don't know, or we forget, that it's Guru devotion practice that made it possible for the past and present practitioners to achieve realizations quickly. We think that some other practice will enable us to achieve realizations quickly. It doesn't work. Correctly following the Guru and serving him increases our realizations hour by hour, minute by minute, second by second, and our obscurations are purified in a similar way. The reason we're not enlightened now is that we have obscurations. If we had no obscurations, we'd be a Buddha now. It's simply a question of our having obscurations. So, as we know, to get Lam Rim realizations, the seed of the realizations is we have to meditate on the topic, whatever it is, whether it's perfect human rebirth, impermanence, death, refuge, karma, all the other topics. That's the seed of the realization, but that seed has to be nourished by purification and creation of merit, and then by sincere prayers, seeing our Guru as one with the meditation deity, seeing our Guru as one with the Buddhas of past, present, and future, and opening, what Rinpoche calls our devotional hole, to allow the blessings of our Guru to pour in. So if we, along with meditating on the path, we purify, do practices that purify and create merit, essentially doing the 7 limb practices, and then we pray to our Guru as one with the deity. Asking for blessings and support of our meditation. Then that's the general way to get realizations, but it's all, our devotion and to our Guru and our following his advice and serving him correctly, that's what really helps us get realizations quickly. But we have to do those other practices as well. Depending. There are also teachings that say that, if our Guru devotion is pure enough and strong enough, and if we follow our Guru's instructions impeccably, then even if we don't do these other meditations and other practices, we can still actually get realizations. So, but if we don't do if we don't have proper devotion to Guru, if we don't follow Guru's instructions, if we don't offer service properly, then even if we do all those other practices, meditating on the path, purification, creation of merit, so forth, then we won't get realizations. So then, Rinpoche gives a lot of teachings on that topic. So, 10 pages just on that. So the sixth benefit is we'll never lack virtuous friends in all our future lives. So Kadampa Geshe Potawa said, after having made a Dharma contact, we must respect the Guru. It's natural then that we won't lack for a Guru in future lives because karma is never lost. So that's one of the results, similar to the cause. If we follow our Guru correctly and generate proper devotion, then in future lives we will meet Gurus, and which will allow us to continue developing our practice of Guru devotion. So that was the sixth benefit. The seventh is that we won't fall into the lower realms. If we correctly devote ourselves to our virtuous friend, any heavy negative karma we've accumulated during beginningless rebirths can be immediately purified. All the heavy negative karmas to be reborn in the lower realms, such as the 5 uninterrupted negative karmas, can be completely purified in the shortest time, even in an instant. There's one sutra called The Essence of the Earth, saying Ningpo, for one who is guided by a guru, even if the negative karmas that would cause one to wander in the lower realms for innumerable tens of millions of eons are purified by manifesting in this life as harms to the body and mind, such as contagious disease, famine, and so forth. This karma can also be purified just by receiving a scolding or having a bad dream. So if we're engaging in proper Guru devotion, karmas that would cause us to be reborn in the lower realms can be experienced very lightly, just by getting sick, by getting a headache, or, breaking an arm or something, that heavy karma is made light through the proper practice of Guru devotion. And so instead of being reborn in the lower realms, we experience that karma as a headache or something, getting the flu or something like that. There's one Lama, great yogi, said, who was in reincarnation of Naropa, Drogon Sangpagyare, if I'm beaten by the Guru, it is an initiation. If there is a blessing to be received, I receive it then. His heavy scoldings are wrathful mantras. If I want to eliminate obstacles, that will do it. So by being beaten by the guru, he sees it as an initiation. These days, we'd see it as cause for a lawsuit. So that's not the way to practice guru devotion. If the guru scolds us, it's like he's giving us a transmission of a wrathful mantra, and that will eliminate obstacles. So, wrathful mantras, we recite them, Mahakala or different mantras, we recite them to remove obstacles. So a scolding from the guru is like that. But, if our guru scolds us, we feel, oh, he doesn't love me anymore, and we run to our room and we'll sulk, instead of seeing it as a transmission of wrath. We're very immature. So there are many stories of the guru purposely doing such actions, beatings and scoldings, to guide disciples, such as Mapa did with Milarepa. Okay, I better move on. So the eighth benefit is we will effortlessly accomplish all our temporary and ultimate wishes. As a result of carrying out our guru's advice and serving him, all our wishes for temporary and ultimate happiness are quickly fulfilled. Correctly devoting ourselves to the guru establishes the root of all future happiness, including enlightenment. Everything, the works for self and other sentient beings, succeeds, and we quickly become enlightened. So, just very briefly then, those are the 8 advantages of correctly devoting ourselves to a guru. So as there are 8 advantages, there are also 8 shortcomings of not devoting ourselves to the guru or devoting ourselves incorrectly. So briefly, the 8 disadvantages are, if we criticize our guru, we're criticizing all the Buddhas. Each moment of anger toward our guru destroys merit for eons equal in number to the moments of anger, and will cause us to be reborn in the hells and suffer for the same number of eons. That's anger. Even though we practice Tantra, we will not achieve the sublime realizations. So this is if we don't devote ourselves to Guru, or we devote incorrectly. Even if we practice Tantra with much hardship, it will be like attaining hell and the like. We will not generate any fresh knowledge or realizations, and our previous knowledge and realizations will degenerate. We'll be afflicted even in this life by illness and other undesirable things. 7, in future lives, we will wander endlessly in the lower realms. And 8, in all our future lives, we will lack virtuous friends. So Rinpoche says, acting in ways opposite to correct devotion to the virtuous friend is the root of all failure, from failure to find happiness and success in this life, up to failure to achieve enlightenment. One way of making mistakes is not to recognize the mistakes we are making because we haven't checked our behavior in terms of the Guru devotion teachings in the Lam Rim. So to know if we're practicing Guru devotion properly or not, we need to study these teachings. Another way of making mistakes is simply to be careless. For people who don't know the complete teachings on Guru devotion, life becomes the continual creation of heavy negative karma. Any negative karma created in relation to the Guru is the heaviest because the Guru is the most powerful object, more powerful than numberless Buddhas. Even if you've created one or more of the 5 uninterrupted negative karmas, which bring immediate rebirth in the heaviest hot hell realm, rebirth in the heaviest hot hell realm, without the interruption of another life, you can purify them and still become enlightened in that life. So those 5 actions, you know, those 5 uninterrupted negative actions, killing father, killing a mother, killing an arhat, drawing blood from a Buddha, or creating a schism in the Sangha. So if we create those 5, any of those 5 extreme negative actions and don't purify them, then when this life finishes, we'll immediately be born in the lower realms, in the hot hells, without another life intervening. You know, we won't be born an animal first and then go to the hot hells, straight like that. But these can be purified. However, making even a small mistake in devoting to the virtuous friend, such as a small criticism or disrespectful action, is heavier than that. It is then difficult to achieve realizations or enlightenment, which means it's difficult for you to accomplish your ultimate goal of benefiting sentient beings. You know, as I've told you, you know, in 1975, I was traveling with Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. I was their sort of attendant on the second world tour. So we were traveling for about 9 months. It was quite extensive. And there was this course in Switzerland, 2-week course in Les Bayards near Geneva. And like at Kopan, the second half of the course, or the second week of the course, everybody took precepts. So I don't know if I told you this story, but so when you take precepts, you're supposed to, you know, the 8 Mahayana precepts, you all know those, I'm sure. So you're not supposed to eat after midday. So what's midday can be 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock according to the time, or it can be, you know, at noon when the sun is directly overhead. I think the strict interpretation is that you're supposed to have finished eating by midday, by noon. But, you know, we usually say you're supposed to start eating by then and finish by, you know, 12:30 or 1. I mean, it's, you know, like that. So on this particular day, Lama Yeshe came to give the morning discourse. Usually Rinpoche gave the morning discourse. So this particular day, the day we were taking precepts, one of the days we were taking precepts, Lama came. And so he's on the throne, he's giving teachings, and, you know, there may be 100, 120 people there, I'm not sure. And then I was sitting on the floor just beside the throne. And Lama's teaching, and then it came noon, So I, respectfully said, "Oh, Lama, we're taking precepts, so we should probably stop now, So he kind of looked at me and just carried on, So about another 15 minutes later, I said, "Oh, Lama, it's, I think, time to, students are taking precepts, we should get the lunch done, You don't want to make them break their precepts, do you?" So I thought that. So anyway, he keeps going. About 12:30, I'm again, saying, "Lama, I think time to go and have lunch." So then he looks at me, and then he makes this kind of squishing motion on his cushion with his thumb, like he's squashing an annoying insect. And everybody's laughing, I'm all embarrassed, and then it goes on, and either I can't remember if I've given up or I try one more time, And then, so I'm saying, "Oh, the food will get cold. The cooks have worked so hard to get it ready." I mean, I have all these reasons why he should stop. Anyway, so finally he stops, and I'm leading him out of the room, back to his to where he's staying. We're going down these stairs. So there's a flight of stairs, and then there's a landing, and then there's another flight down to where Lama's driver is waiting for him. And so I went down the steps ahead of Lama. Lama's behind me, and I'm on this landing, and I was so furious, and I turned around to give him a piece of my mind about, how he's making the students break their precepts, and how he's being thoughtless about the cooks, who've worked so hard to get this delicious food ready in time, and now the food's getting cold. Anyway, all this garbage. But I turned around, and he looked at me, and he got this look of terror on his face, as he could see the karma that I'm creating, and he could probably see me burning in hot hell as a result of my moments of anger with the guru. And he says, "Stop! Don't say anything. Don't say a word." So I kind of bottle it up and still see it anyway. It's just when you read this, what did it say? Each moment of anger toward our guru destroys merit for eons equally numbered to the moments of anger that would cause us to be reborn in the hells and suffer for the same number of eons. I must have spent an hour of anger towards Lama at that point. It was like, so I don't know if I'll ever get over that one. But, as Lama also says, there's no negativity that can't be purified. So, so there's still hope, So anyway, so there's this disadvantage, if we criticize it. So the first one, we criticize our guru, we're criticizing all the Buddhas. So, criticizing one Buddha is bad enough. Criticizing all the gurus, all the Buddhas, that's, pretty bad. And criticizing the guru is the same as criticizing all the Buddhas, but I think it's probably worse. But that's part of it, Getting angry at our guru is the same as getting angry at all the Buddhas. Why? Because as Pabonka Rinpoche explains, the guru is the embodiment of all the numberless Buddhas of the 10 directions and the actions of all the Buddhas manifest through the Guru in order to subdue our mind. Of course, since the Guru is a much more powerful object than all the Buddhas of the 3 times 10 directions, the negative karma is actually much heavier. So there's that one. So then there's each moment of anger. So the most dangerous thing is generating anger or heresy towards our Guru. If we become angry at our Guru, we'll destroy eons of merit that we've accumulated in the past, equal in numbers to the moments of our anger. And for the same number of eons, we'll be reborn and suffer in the inexhaustible suffering, the lowest and hottest of the hot hells, which means we'll experience the heaviest suffering. If we're angry at our Guru for even one moment, we create the karma to be born in hell for 1 eon. For 1 moment, 1 eon. The longer we have to be in hell, the more distant we'll be from temporary happiness, the result of virtue, and the ultimate happiness, the liberation, enlightenment. Also, our realizations of the path will be delayed for the same number of eons as the moments of our anger. So I don't know what a moment is. I think a moment may be 65 fractions of a second. So 65 moments in a second, 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. I can't even calculate how many eons just in that 1 hour of anger, feeling anger towards Lama Yeshe. How many eons before I get any realizations. It's depressing. All our realizations will be delayed, same number of minutes. If we're about to realize renunciation, bodhicitta, emptiness, or some other realization, and get angry at our Guru, our realization will be delayed for eons equal in number to the moments of our anger. Even if the merit has been dedicated, the experience of the result of that merit is delayed for that number of eons. So there's that one. So then the third disadvantage is, even though we practice Tantra, we will not achieve the sublime realization, enlightenment. If we make mistakes in our Guru devotion practice, even if we practice Tantra, we can never achieve enlightenment. No matter how well we understand the Tantric path, and no matter how many eons we meditate on it, we can never achieve the sublime realization. Until we purify the negative karma accumulated in relation to the Guru, no matter how much we practice Tantra, there'll be no enlightenment. So then the fourth disadvantage of incorrect devotion to the Guru, even if we practice Tantra with much hardship, it will be like attaining hell and the like. You know, in other words, instead of creating, even though practice Tantra, if we have incorrect Guru devotion, then all our practice of so-called practice of Tantra will be like creating the cause of lower rebirth rather than enlightenment. If we've criticized, become angry at, or made some other mistake in relation to our Guru, as long as we don't confess our mistake or revive the Samaya, even attempting to practice Tantra for many years by undergoing hardships such as foregoing food and sleep, will be like attaining hell and the like. That means even if we endure many hardships, not eating, not sleeping, not speaking, not saying anybody, reciting mantras, meditating day and night, if we endure many hardships to do many years of retreat in a solitary place, nothing will change in our mind if we've made mistakes in relation to one of your virtuous friends. It's not saying that all this intensive practice become the cause of the lower realms. It's not saying that you're not collecting merit. Even though such heavy negative thoughts are arising, you may be collecting merit by performing various practices, such as making prostrations and offerings to Buddha, for example. Of course, even from the power of the object, such actions become virtue. However, the mountains of negative karma from your negative thoughts towards your guru are so heavy that the good karma you create becomes insignificant. So it's not only Lama Yeshe I got angry with, I also got angry with the Rinpoche. So see, this is the shortcoming of spending too much time with the lamas, or spending a lot of time with the lamas. You get the opportunity to create all this negative karma because your mind is so uncontrolled, you know. So one time, I think it was I think it might be 1983. Anyway, I was in Melbourne at the same time. Rinpoche was in Melbourne. Rinpoche was there giving teachings, and I was there for some reason. I think it's just after I'd taken over Wisdom Publications. I'd left India and gone to London to take over Wisdom, but then I had to try and raise some money. So I went to see some friends in Melbourne. I started there and then worked my way up through Asia, just trying to get some money to develop this, to develop Wisdom further. And so anyway, I was in Melbourne and Rinpoche was there. He's giving a series of 3 nights teachings for Tara Institute. And, you know, the Institute, the Gompa at the centre was too small for the number of people who wanted to come. So there are probably 120, 130 people at the first night. So they rented, the students went to a lot of trouble. They rented this high school gymnasium, and then they fixed it up to look like a Gompa, and went to a lot of trouble publicising the talk and organising Rinpoche's travel and everything. So in those days, when Rinpoche taught, he would cough a lot and clear his throat. He doesn't do it so much now. But there was a period where, you know, but it could make it difficult to listen to the teaching. Sometimes he would cough and clear his throat and repeat himself. And there was this, I think Roger even took him to have, at some point later on, he had elocution lessons, and he went to see all kinds of ear, nose and throat specialists. Anyway, so there was this teaching, and so Rinpoche was in usual form, coughing and clearing his throat and pausing for a long time between things he said and then repeating himself. It was, I would say you had to work to listen to it. And so anyway, so that was the first night. And then the second night, we came back and there were only about 80 people, you know, like a third of the people didn't come back. So it was a similar thing, same thing, coughing, clearing the throat and everything. You know. And then the third night, there were only 40 people there. So it was like, you know, the place was like really empty. And so I was really annoyed. And I said, so I went to see Rinpoche afterwards. And I don't remember exactly how it went down, but it was my memory, it's something like this. Rinpoche, you know, these people work really hard to put this teaching together, you know, and, you know, they went to a lot of effort. And so then, you know, publicizing it and fixing the place up and everything. And so then they got a nice crowd the first night. And then, you know, all you did was cough and clear your throat and you drove all these people away, you know. And then the second night, it was the same thing, you know. You know, I didn't quite say it like that, but this is what it felt like, okay? And so then he gives me this really hard look. And he says, "Do you think I don't know what I'm doing?" And I'm like, well, no, I can't say that. I'm pretty sure you know what you're doing. But it was like, so I never, and this still went on for years like this. I never said another word about it. You know? So I don't know why Rinpoche employed that technique. It was to get rid of the tourists, to make sure people really wanted to hear what he had to say. I don't know. Still don't know. But, you know, there's always something. Do you watch the teachings, the COVID teachings on thought transformation that Rinpoche is giving from Kopan over the last year or so? I mean, since Rinpoche's stroke 10 years ago, now he's got this whole new thing where he kind of shouts and makes these weird expressions. He's like, but he's has a lot more urgency in the teachings now, you know. It's different now, you know. And I think he still knows what he's doing. You know? So. Okay, so I think we're more or less out of time at this point. So we'll continue next time on the fifth disadvantage of incorrect devotion to the Guru, page 145. So we'll start there next time.
Excuse me, Dr. Ribush, is there time for a question? One question.
Sure.
I put it in chat, a direct chat to you. I can read it out loud if you would like.
Sure.
Okay, let me just get back in here. I'm sorry, I just have to find where it is.
Is this about the books, about the Buddhist books, or something else?
Prior to meeting FPMT, I bought 2 Buddhist books at a used bookstore. I never resonated with them, never read them, and they've been on my bookshelf. After your class 2 sessions ago, I now realize and understand the 2 books are by Geshe Khalsa Gyatso. Please advise how to dispose of these books.
Well, so I'm pretty sure I told the story about Khalsa Gyatso and Geshe Loden, these first 2 Geshis that we invited to the West in the 70s, and how they both went off and did their own thing. With Khalsa Gyatso, you know, then he became a strong proponent of the Shugden practice. I mean, he always was. And so he, when His Holiness declared that this was not a Buddha, not a manifestation of Manjushri, but a negative spirit, he got very upset, Kelsang Gyatso, and he started this whole movement against His Holiness. And his students used to, you know, the New Kadampa tradition, so-called, they used to demonstrate outside His Holiness's teachings against His Holiness, and it was a very ugly scene there for quite a while in the 90s and maybe beyond. I can't remember exactly the years, but so, you know, he, not only him, but, you know, a number of other lamas who did the Shugden practice, who'd done it for a long time. I mentioned Geshe Rabden's student, Gonsa Rinpoche. He is a very strong proponent of that practice, and you know, he said, I heard he said that His Holiness had lost his mind by trying to ban that practice, by telling people they shouldn't do the practice. Anyway, it was a very, especially in the Tibetan community, it was a very schismatic issue. So because Kelsang Gyatso seemed to have, he's a disciple of His Holiness, and yet he's out there publicly criticizing His Holiness, I mean, very badly, and having his students go out to insult and criticize His Holiness, you know, false Dalai Lama and all this stuff. So it was very, you know, very, very negative. And so what to do with his books? I mean, they could be sent to one of his centers, just anonymously mailed to one of them, for example. They'd probably take them. Or it could be burned. Like, you know, we have a, you know, there's, you know, in the back of all our books, there's always a page called What to Do with Dharma Teachings. That doesn't mean if you want to practice them. This means what to do with things, material that, you know, damaged books or, you know, old notes that you don't need. Maybe you've taken notes by hand and you've typed it up, and what do you do with your notes? So there's a special way of burning Dharma papers. Sometimes people call it Dharma rubbish. That's not a good juxtaposition of words, I think. Maybe Dharma burn, people call it, you know, that's probably okay. Or so you can't recycle it, because, you know, recycled paper gets made into toilet paper, so you don't want people wiping their bums with Dharma teachings. Although that's what, you know, Chinese-made Tibetans do when they invaded Tibet. You can't throw it in the trash. You can put Dharma into stupas if they're building stupa, or but you know, here, you know, we generate at the archive. We generate, you know, I mean, we have, before something becomes a book, it's on sheets of paper, and there are hundreds of sheets of paper. Each new time we want to proof a book, we often print it out, so we have reams and reams of paper that we have to get rid of. So we have to burn it in a special way. So we have a fireplace, and in the winter we collect it, and then in the winter when we have fires we burn it with mantras and the visualizations. So you could also burn them if you know how to do that. But, you know, it's a Dharma teaching, whether it's by Kelsang Gyatso or somebody else. So it needs to be respected as such. But if you, I wouldn't I wouldn't keep them in my house unless there was a particular reason to do it. So I think an easy way out is just to send it, or if there's, I don't know where you are, is there a new Kadampa Centre in Santa Fe? They have these little centres all over the place, new Kadampa tradition. So find a centre and send it to them. Or burn it in the proper way.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Or give it to a student. I mean, anyway, you get the idea.
Yeah.
Dr. Nick, I don't want to keep you, but
That's
I
okay.
would like to express my gratitude for really talking about the intricacies of working with a guru, because I know a lot of us are serving the center, you know, we have or are serving the center in Rinpoche via the center. And I know that some of us are working closely with teachers, and it's really a profound practice of watching one's mind. It's incredibly challenging at sometimes, and it's really rewarding at sometimes. And just the idea of having some type of boundaries, or being able, because of, you know, perhaps one's not working on one's mind enough, has really helped. But anyway, I think thank you so much. Your teaching, you know, just sharing has been priceless.
Well, yeah, I don't have anything original to say, but that's why I just keep recommending this book. And there, you know, there's other books. Also, there's a couple more that I hadn't mentioned. That, you know, there's also Alex Berzin's book, Wise Teacher, Wise Student, Tibetan Approach to a Healthy Relationship. It was called something else. The first edition was called, I think the first one was called Relating to a Spiritual Teacher, Building a Healthy Relationship. So, you know, Rinpoche's book, this is hardcore guru devotion, you know, 50 verses of guru devotion, you know, highest yoga tantric attitude to a guru. These couple of chapters by His Holiness in Foundation of Buddhist Practice, this volume 2 in the Library of Wisdom and Compassion. So this is much more gentle, and it's tempered by Venerable Thupten Chodron's sensible approach, shall we say. Very good. And so this is more for Westerners, and not quite as hardline as Rinpoche's approach, if I can put it that way. And then there's another one, which is I haven't looked at this book in detail. It's also Snow Lion, Shambhala, by Jamgon Kongtrul, the great. Teacher-student relationship. So there are many of these books, you know, on guru-disciple relationships. So, you know, it's really the most important relationship we have, much more important than our marriage or, you know, our relationship with our parents or our children. The one relationship with the guru is most important. So it's really important to try and get it right. So the more we read about it, and as I said, the essential nectar, you know, Rinpoche decided to use the teachings on guru devotion from this text in his new Lam Rim book, which never got done. And then, of course, there's
the section on Guru devotion in Liberation and the equivalent section in Lamrim Chenmo. So I think, the more of those different books we can study, the more it really helps us in knowing how to relate to our teachers. So, like I said, I don't really have anything really original to say on the topic, but so, you can get much more from these books than you get from me. But, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it because it helps kind of refresh my understanding of the topic. So thank you very much.